Hey y'all, this is Megan, and today I'm sewing a Youth Florence pattern. This version has the straps on the bodice and the skirt cut on the double fold. If you want to see the plain bodice with the skirt side seam, I'll link it down below. Cut 2 pieces in your main fabric, mirror images. Don't forget to mark that marking on top if you're sewing the strap. And then 2 other pieces for your lining, also mirror images. And then 1 or 2 straps, and then you will cut your skirt on the double fold. And I went ahead and quartered my skirt to make it easier for later. The first step is going to be putting your bodices right sides together, aligning those raw edges, and we're going to sew at the shoulder, creating the shoulder seam with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once you have the shoulder seam sewn, you can set that aside and we'll work on our strap. You're going to fold it with the right sides together and stitch it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then you're going to use a safety pin or a tube turner to just turn it right side out. If you want, you can slip some clear elastic in the strap if you're using a fabric that doesn't have great recovery. I like to move that seam towards the center back so you can't see it while it's worn. Then with the right side of the strap aligned with the right side of the bodice on that marking on top, you are going to baste that strap in place. Once you get it basted on the front, then we're going to do the same thing for the back. You will put the right side of the strap to the right side of that back bodice, and then again baste it in place. If you want to, now would be a great time to go ahead and baste these side seams and try it on your model to see if you need to adjust the strap length at all. Now you're going to lay that bodice out flat, and you're going to place the lining on top with the right sides together, and the strap is going to be sandwiched between. Now this is a little bit difficult to get to lay flat because the bodice is so small, but you kind of move that strap towards the side seam and align all those raw edges and the shoulder seam. Then you're going to stitch these together, the lining and the main pieces, again with that strap between, with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Again, you can use your serger for this step, or my preferred method is to use the sewing machine because you're going to get a cleaner finish once we stitch the clear elastic in this seam. So just kind of move that strap out of the way and stitch this again with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then I'm going to go back and add the clear elastic inside of the seam allowance. Make sure to exercise your clear elastic a little bit before you add it into the seam, and then I don't like to add it to the side seam, so I start about 1/2 inch over. And you don't want to pull your elastic too tight or it's going to gather. You just want to put a little bit of tension on it and pull it taut. Next, we're going to be burrito rolling the arm side. So this is what it will look like. And you're going to open it back up the lining in the main, and you're going to put that strap directly on that neckline seam, and you're going to pull the lining over the strap and align the raw edges. And again, we will stitch this with the 1/2 inch seam allowance, going back and adding the clear elastic to the seam. Just make sure that when you're sewing, especially on the smaller sizes, you can kind of open it and make sure that you're not going to get your strap caught in the seam. Then you'll flip your bodice right side out by pulling it through that shoulder strap, and it's time to sew your side seams. So you're going to pull apart your main and lining pieces and then layer the back, again pulling apart those main and lining pieces, and stitch them together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Then you'll press that lining towards the wrong side, and if you want now, you can top stitch the arm side and the neckline. I'm going to go ahead and quarter my bodice real quick by putting the side seams together and finding the center front and back and placing clips there. We're going to attach the bodice to the skirt now. So you have your skirt, I've already quartered it. You're going to flip your bodice wrong side out and put it over your skirt so the skirt and the bodice are right sides together. You're going to match the quarter points, and then you will stitch the waistline together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Once you have it stitched, if you're using a fabric that doesn't have great recovery, you can add some clear elastic to that seam if you want. And you can also press the seam towards the bodice and top stitch it in place. The final step is going to be hemming the bottom. You can press the bottom a 1/2 inch toward the wrong side and then head stitch in place. Or I'm going to go ahead and roll hem the bottom of this one. If you want to see some tips on how to do this, I will link a video down below. And then your Youth Florence is complete. This is such a quick and fun pattern. It's so twirly, and my niece has absolutely loved the ones that I have made her, which makes my aunt heart so happy. If you have any questions, as always, you can leave them down below and I will try to answer. And please, if you make one, go ahead and post in our Facebook group or tag us on Instagram at Made for Mermaids. I have it paired here with a little pair of Bonnie boy shorts, and I love it.